Hi, hello everyone. How is everyone doing? Happy first day of October, by the way. Um, so my name is Ezra. You can call me eSoup. There is a link to trigger warnings in the description if you need it. And yeah, I wanted to ask y'all how you're feeling about the beginning of Volume 2. I was really vibing with the start of this book. It just opened up awesome right out of the gate. And I know this isn't exactly the most thematic, spooky season kind of read, but nonetheless, I'm having so much fun with it. Blanket season has officially begun, yes. Hi, Wolf. Hi, Blue. Hi, Lonjade. Elsie, Henry. Good to see you all here. Oh, and Cookie and a vase of peonies. Is there like a good way to shorten your name? I guess I could just call you Vase. I think that works. And Anna, hi. What's Henry, what's spookier than gay people? That's a good point. Yeah, you know, Wolf, I'm still in shorts at the moment too. Um, but I think that will change soon. The weather likes to do this weird thing in between seasons here where it's like, no, it's hot. No, it's starting to get colder. No, it's still hot, sorry. And just like back and forth. Oh, you know what? That's a good point though. Shen Zichuan did skin a man. So there are some spooky things happening in here. Yeah, good point. I do not know what the Celsius is here right now because I'm an American, but I'll just say that it's hot. I walk my friend's dog sometimes and it was very hot this morning. Although there was like a breeze, so it's like it's still hot, but we're getting a nice breeze, so at least there's that. Blue, the only thing spookier than homosexuality is homosexual politics. Yeah. No, that checks out. Yeah, I am also I reread what we read for last stream, and I actually understand everything they were talking about when they were looking at the maps when they were in the library. I was like, no, this is still going to be confusing. As soon as I read it while like cross-referencing with the map, it immediately made sense. And I was like, okay, so when I read these things for the first time in stream and I can't look at the map, that's why it doesn't make sense. As soon as you have the visual aid, it's like, oh, I get it. It's great. The him hiring twinks to test himself was terrifyingly funny. That was a moment when he just was like, nah, never mind, and he just left. I love that too. The cup fight was iconic. The cup fight was interesting to me because I was thinking about the cover of Volume 1, and the cover of Volume 1 almost feels like I don't even know if something comes up in Volume 1 that's really fitting of what the cover shows. Like, I really like that cover, but I almost feel like that cover could have come for this volume, maybe? I'm not sure. That scene made me think of the cover, and I was like, huh. Maybe I can put up the map on screen during paragraphs that need the map. I think that would be somewhat helpful. Like, I still can't pay as much attention when I'm reading out loud. Because when I, stop and look at the map, I have to, like, stop reading for a second, basically. But I could do that. Wolf, I really liked the Kung Fu Panda visual reference. I have never seen Kung Fu Panda, and in Discord, Wolf posted this scene with like dumpling fighting, dumpling juggling, fighting over dumplings that really reminded me of that moment in QJJ, and I also was like, well, dang, I need to see Kung Fu Panda now. And yeah, I could put the map up during intervals. Let me actually... Did someone send the map in the Discord last time? I feel like that's there. If I could find that, just so I can, like, have it up. And then anyone else could also... Is that in our QJJ Theories chat? I could swear that it was. Yes. Yeah, Blue put up the map last stream in the QJJ Theories channel. So, oh, thank you. Yeah, so if anyone else is in the Discord and you want to look at the map, it will be there. And I might look at it if it becomes relevant again during this stream, because it really made, like, such a huge difference. And, like, I think I said last time, I'm not really a maps in book person, but this is one of the first times where it's actually, like, done something for me. Like, oh, this adds to the experience of reading and it makes things make sense. Like, it's like, I feel like I'm actually thinking in, like, political strategy brain mode, and that's hard for me, so I'm just like, whoa, cool. Yeah. So, where we left off was also very fun, because Xiaoqiye got Shen Zichuan blushing and pointed it out. And that was just the end of the chapter, was just, Lanzhou, you're blushing. And now we are on page 61 for chapter 45, which is called New Blade. Waves crashed through the still waters of Shen Zichuan's heart. Lying in the pocket of his sleeve, that handkerchief seemed to have caught fire. The flames burned right up to his ears. Shen Zichuan knew even the hint of a flush against the snowy backdrop of his skin was eye-catching. Any denial would be unconvincing. Xiaoqiye had led him right into this predicament. There was nowhere to hide. Bright mirrors seemed to surround them on all sides. He looked as if he was waiting for Shen Zichuan to cast aside his protective shell and reveal his true colors. I think that's exactly what he's waiting for. Oh, hi, Nina. You caught up. That's awesome. This homosexual predicament. We just got started, so you didn't miss too much. Shen Zichuan licked his lips to chase away the dry heat in his throat. Curling his fingers, he ignored the provocation. He refused to give Xiaoqiye a chance to pry further. It's getting late, Shen Zichuan declared. Let's go get them. Xiaoqiye watched him. Shen Zichuan's unspoken, I'm ignoring you, itched at him. It stirred up his desire to chase his momentum to victory. Haste, however, was no path to success, and impulsiveness would only lead to pitfalls. He had to let this one go. Our Shifu have their own arrangements. There's no need to worry about them. If you want to sleep, take your time here. The East Wing has been vacated. Shen Zichuan stood at once. Jigong and Zuo Qianqiu had shared so many rounds they would be drunk well into tomorrow. Shen Zichuan helped Jigong up into the carriage to head back. Xiaoqiye watched them go. When they were alone, He said to Chen Yang, "Keep a close eye on the 8 great clans for the next few days. See who's on the move." Chen Yang nodded his acknowledgement. Carriage swaying around him, Shen Zichuan closed his eyes to rest. They made a detour to change to their own smaller, nondescript carriage before finally arriving at the Temple of Guilt. Chao Tianya carried Jigong on his back into the courtyard. Ge Qingqing had been waiting half the night. When he saw them, he started forward. "It's all right," Shen Zichuan assured him. "Shifu is just drunk." Standing under the eaves, Grand Mentor Qi called, Qingqing, help Jigong inside and let him sleep it off." Ge Qingqing took Jigong from Chao Tianya and carried him into the house. Freed of his burden, Chao Tianya fell to his knees in the snow. "Has Grand Mentor been well?" "All is well upon seeing you." Grand Mentor Qi lifted a hand. "Now that you've changed your name to Chao Tianya, that indenture is no longer of any use. Yet for that bit of sentiment, you stayed. I should thank you." To Grand Mentor Qi, those past events were the effortless lift of a finger, but to me, it was the kindness that saved my life. All signs of frivolity had vanished from Chao Tianya's face. That year, when the Guangcheng Emperor sentenced corrupt officials to death, and my father and brother were framed, if it hadn't been for the Grand Mentor's integrity and willingness to help us, all 20 members of the Chao clan would have met an unjust death before the Meridian Gate. Your father and brother were both upright and loyal subjects. The false charges against them wouldn't have stuck. Even without me, they would have been safe and sound. Chao Tianya paused for a long moment before he countered respectfully. The Chao clan cannot thank Grand Mentor enough for his kindness. During the years of Yongyi, when Chao Tianya's father still served as an official in the Ministry of War, the Guangcheng Emperor dealt harshly with any whiff of corruption. The Chief Surveillance Bureau had received reports that Chao Tianya's father was in possession of properties and lands of unidentified origin. His father was helpless against the accusations until Qi Huilian had the case Chao defected to the Empress Dowager. The Eastern Palace fell. Oh, are we still lagging? It's buffering now? Okay, why? I swear YouTube is lying and telling me I have an excellent connection. Let me... Okay, we're back, but we missed a chunk. How far... Does anyone know where it cut out? Should I go back to the top of page 63? Since during the years of Yongyi. Okay. During the years of Yongyi, when Chao Tianya's father still served as an official in the Ministry of War, the Guangcheng Emperor dealt harshly with any whiff of corruption. The Chief Surveillance Bureau had received reports that Chao Tianya's father was in possession of properties and lands of unidentified origin. His father was helpless against the accusations until Qi Huilian had the case reinvestigated and cleared the names of the senior Chao and a few others from the Ministry of War. Afterward, Qi Huilian betrothed his daughter to the eldest son of the Chao family. Yet, this was not the end of the matter. A few years later, the Eastern Palace was itself falsely accused, and Qi Huilian was demoted from Grand Mentor to a commoner. When he retreated into the Temple of Guilt with the Crown Prince, the senior Chao defected to the Empress Dowager. The Eastern Palace fell, and Empress Dowager Hua leveraged Pan Rugui's authority to order its remaining followers investigated in the name of the Guangcheng Emperor. Despite throwing in with the Empress Dowager's faction, Chao Tianya's father was imprisoned again. This time, there was no Grand Mentor Qi to plead his case. Both he and his eldest son were beheaded, and the rest of the Chao family banished to Suotian Pass. Qi Huilian's daughter, Chao Tianya's eldest sister-in-law, perished on the journey. Let's not talk of the past. Grand Mentor Qi tugged at his snow-white hair. It can't have been easy for you to break free of your low caste. So now you must think this through. Once you decide to serve Lanzhou, it will be a lifelong commitment. Your life and death will no longer be your own. A gust of wind ruffled Chao Tianya's hair, and he grinned, wide and unrestrained. Grand Mentor, I have no home to return to. In this lifetime, I've received too many favors from both you and my sister-in-law. Sinful debts I had no way of repaying. Now I can be of use, and I shall dedicate my life to my master. Chao Songyue died alongside his sister-in-law in the Tangjun commandery. Today's Chao Tianya is merely a blade. A blade knows not life or death, let alone freedom. These are dark times, and trouble looms like clouds shadowing our road. I urge you to wield this blade as you please. Grand Mentor Qi took a slow step out from under the eaves. One hand on the pillar for support, he looked toward Chen Zichuan. Lanzhou, this year is almost over. Xian Sheng has yet to give you a gift to celebrate your coming of age. Shen Zichuan's sleeves billowed in the wind. He seemed to know what came next. Grand Mentor Qi continued. You can stand on your own now, but this road will be long, killing your sworn enemies, dismantling the 8 great clans, overturning wrongful judgments, bringing peace to Zhongbo. None of it will be easy. Jigong means to give you a blade, and so do I. Receive it well. Fine snow fell over the courtyard. Shen Zichuan looked down and let Grand Mentor Qi lay cold fingers atop his head. Jigong didn't wake up until dinner. After some congee, he called Shen Zichuan into the house. Do you remember the blade I mentioned last time? I hadn't forgotten it. It was delivered last night. Jigong shifted aside a shelf to reveal a saber rack. Shen Zichuan's heart stirred. He found he could no longer move his eyes away from this saber. Jigong wiped a clean cloth along the blade's edge. Jilei couldn't use it, but this blade suits you very well. I had someone reforge the sheath. Its old name is no longer appropriate. You should give it another. Shen Zichuan studied the lustrous blade with fascination. It was a straight blade that spanned almost 4 chu. And there's a footnote for that. A chu is an ancient measure of length. 1 chu is approximately 13 inches. Yeah, that is really long. It was a straight blade that spanned almost 4 chu. Unsheathing it would have to be quick work, though its width of only 2 fingers meant it would be especially maneuverable for swift attacks. The sandalwood hilt was newly constructed. It was bare of any carvings. Its only embellishment was the gold plate at the top of the hilt, and a single pearl embedded in the center. It was an excellent saber, expertly forged and thoroughly tempered. Even left to gather dust for so long, its naked blade radiated a grim, imposing presence. It was as if it were immersed in a clear stream on an autumn day, pristine, untainted, and haughty, as though it knew it was without peer. Something's bothered me recently, but I only put my finger on it when I saw Xiao last night. I've been too inflexible in my teachings, and so you've become overly cautious and hesitant. Ji Gong laid down the cloth. With this blade, not even Xiao wolf's fang will be a match for your draw speed. The sandalwood hilt is lighter than steel. It will allow you to be more agile. When it comes to martial arts, nothing can beat speed. This was my father's beloved blade. Nowadays, we say the Ji clan's martial arts should be ferocious. But those mental cultivation techniques were my father's own creation. If he could do it, so can you. You, too, can carve your own path. Grasping the hilt of the blade, Shen Zichuan lifted it before him. Ji Gong took a few steps back. Give it a name. Shifu would give me a blade of this caliber? His hands on the blade were reverent. Ji Gong laughed heartily. Shifu would rather use his fists. I don't like blades. It would be wasted on me. Shen Zichuan thought for a moment. Then I shall name it Avalanche. We're gonna look at the art now. Oh, I need to see my camera. Hello? Where? Okay. His reflection in the blade in Avalanche, excuse me? I'm really digging this. That's a really good name. Yeah. I do wish it would say the Chinese name, although I think it'll be in that, like, glossary thing. Because I know it said... Yeah, did it? I forget if we know the Chinese name for Wolf's Fang, but I feel like it said it in there. So it should probably have his sword in there in this volume. Yeah, the style of the interior art is really good. And this is... See, this is Suto. But the art in QJJ is like, even though it's still the same artist, it's like a little bit of a different style from like Arha or the Yu art. It just looks a little different. It's like, I would almost think it was a different artist in certain, like, I don't know what it is that they did differently, but there's just something about it. I really like it. It's a bit darker blue. Yeah, it is more serious. Yeah, Blue, we were talking about the Seven Seas glossaries being spoilery, but I think if you just look at the part with the main character names and, like, it says what weapon they have, I don't think that will spoil anything. Just don't look at anything else. That night, Grand Mentor Qi sat on his heels atop the table, writing the surnames of the 8 great clans on a piece of paper. The court officials' feast is fast approaching. The 4 great generals will be reunited, and the regional officials will return to the capital as well. Grand Mentor Qi continued as he waited for the ink to dry. With the coronation of the new emperor, there will surely be a formal review of his officials. This matter is of utmost importance and will determine political stability over the next year. Everyone will use the days around the officials' feast as an opportunity to reassess the situation in court. If the Empress Dowager wishes to stage a comeback, this is her chance. After Hua Siqian's death, the Empress Dowager was confined to the palace and hasn't shown her face since. Shen Zichuan furrowed his brow. The younger members of the Hua clan have all been demoted and banished. If she intends to make a move, she will have to find external allies. But the example of Shi Guan is fresh in everyone's mind. Who would dare side with the Empress Dowager now? Yeah, Shen Zichuan really does have some intense eyes. He's so ambitious. I love it. Also, don't think I didn't miss the jokes earlier about the sword being straight. Who said that? The sword is the only straight thing about Shen Zichuan? Yes, Henry, that was you, of course. Um Cowardly vermin will not achieve greatness. All alliances are motivated by mutual benefits. As long as the Empress Dowager still holds bargaining chips, why would she worry about finding new allies? Grand Mentor Qi put down a few strokes on the paper under Hua. Moreover, the men of her clan were never dependable to begin with. You've forgotten. The one the Empress Dowager has been personally mentoring is a girl. The third lady, Shen Zichuan said. Xian Sheng refers to Hua Xiangyi. Given the height of her favor during the Xiande Emperor's reign, many thought Third Lady Hua would be conferred the title of Imperial Princess, continued Grand Mentor Qi. But it didn't happen. Not because the Xiande Emperor was stingy, but because the Empress Dowager wouldn't allow it. Shen Zichuan took a mouthful of tea, contemplated for a moment, then swallowed it. I understand. Then let's hear it. Shen Zichuan propped an arm on his knee. If Hua Xiangyi had become a princess of Great Zhou, her marriage would be out of the Empress Dowager's hands. The marriage of a princess is a state affair, subject to the discretion of the Emperor and his court officials. But if she remains Third Lady Hua, the Empress Dowager alone decides whom she will marry. Qian Sheng suggests that the Empress Dowager plans to marry her off. If the mountain does not come to me, then I will go to the mountain, Grand Mentor Qi said, dipping his brush in ink. The Empress Dowager has sacrificed a pawn to save a rook. With Shi Guan's loss, she's given up military hold of Chudu. But if Hua Xiangyi marries Xiao Chiye, the loss is easily resolved. Oh, I didn't think about her trying to marry her off to Xiao Chiye. Well, that's fun. Shen Zichuan tapped lightly on his teacup and lowered his lashes. This endeavor is harder than ascending to heaven. Xiao R will never hand over power to someone else. I've heard Hua Xiangyi is lovely enough to bring whole cities to ruin, Grand Mentor Qi pointed out. There's no guarantee Xiao R won't change his mind once he sees her. Shen Zichuan sipped his tea and kept very quiet. But it is indeed no easy feat, Grand Mentor Qi conceded. Even if Xiao R were to well and truly fall for her, Xiao Jiming won't sit idly by. Xiao and Hua are as incompatible as fire and water. There's no reason for the Xiao clan to bury the hatchet when they hold the advantage. Shen Zichuan thought it over. It might be worth it to the Empress Dowager to sacrifice military power to gain more control of the central administration. But there are very few exceptional up-and-coming officials, and Hai Liangyi still heads the Grand Secretariat. The Empress Dowager can't be expected to lower Hua Xiangyi's status by making her someone's concubine. It really does seem that in all of Chudu, there is no other fitting candidate for a groom. If not in Chudu, she can look elsewhere. Grand Mentor Qi wrote the word Qidong. If Li Bei won't do, there's still opportunity on the other frontier. Marshal Qi and Lu Guangbai are both unmarried, Shen Zichuan agreed. In that case, it can only be Lu Guangbai. However, the Lu and Xiao clans share a friendship that goes back decades. It's not the kind of relationship that can be picked apart with one move. Why have you dismissed the Qi clan? Grand Mentor Qi grumbled. There are others there besides Qi Juyin. Shen Zichuan's mouth dropped open in astonishment. It can't be. I forgot who... Does Qi Juyin have a brother? I've totally forgotten who we're talking about. A few days later, Xiao Chuye accompanied Li Jianhong out of the city to welcome the two generals from Qidong. Lu Guangbai rode at Xiao Chuye's side on the way back. Removing his helmet, he said, I heard some news on the way here. Do you know anything about it? Xiao Chuye spurred his horse forward. What? Before Lu Guangbai could speak, Qi Juyin galloped up behind them and slapped him on the back. Marshal! Lu Guangbai yelped in pain. A rare scowl creased her brow. Resting a hand on her blade, she leaned toward Xiao Chuye. When did these rumors start in Chudu? Xiao Chuye blinked back at her, increasingly baffled. Qi Juyin clenched her jaw and fumed. Someone's going to be my stepmother. Stunned, Xiao Chuye blurted, Old Marshal Qi is taking a new concubine? Concubine, ha! Qi Juyin sneered. They're saying he's going to remarry. Third Lady Hua will be my stepmother. Isn't she younger than I am? Well, that answered my question. Yeah, is Master Qi related to Qi Juyin? I feel like they're not, but I don't know if we actually know that. I don't know. Like, wait, Master Qi. Or are we talking, because there's Grand Mentor Qi. But he's not related. He is? Wait, what? Oh, no, you mean the general. Okay, yeah. No, yeah, Grand Mentor Qi is a different Qi. But then Master Qi is her father. Right. Okay. That makes sense. Well, that's an end of the chapter. God, that fucks me up. The idea of, like, having a stepmom who's younger than you. Oh no. Oh no, absolutely not. So, we're on page 71 for chapter 46, which is called Banquet. Hua Xiangyi was indeed younger than Qi Juyin by 2 years. Her recent days residing deep in the inner palace had thinned her considerably. When she saw Qi Shiyu's portrait on the Empress Dowager's desk, realization finally dawned on her. The Empress Dowager took her hand and held it for several moments before saying, It's a spring and winter marriage, but Qi Shiyu is doting. Hua Xiangyi settled her lilac palace robe and laid her head on the Empress Dowager's knee. A hand came down to stroke her long hair. No need to be sad, the Empress Dowager continued. This is how all the Hua clan's daughters marry. Marry him now, and in a few years, you will become the true mistress of Qidong and its 5 commanderies. Aunt Liu Shang finished lighting the incense in the hall and silently motioned for the maids and eunuchs to vacate the room. I just can't bear to leave you, Auntie, Hua Xiangyi smiled. Tangjun Commandery is so far away. I'll have to wait a year whenever I wish to see you again. Auntie can't bear for you to leave either. The Empress Dowager wrapped gentle arms around her. Hua Xiangyi nuzzled against her as she had when she was a little girl, listening dutifully as the Empress Dowager said, When I left Dicheng and married the Guangcheng Emperor, I was but 15. I couldn't bear parting with the swing in our manor. I loved being on it. With each rise and fall, I could feel the wind and hear the clamor beyond those high walls. My mother promised me that when I came to the imperial palace of Chudu, if I wished, the emperor would build me one just like it. Yes, ooh, indeed. Hua Xiangyi stayed perfectly still. The Empress Dowager had been most favored by the Guangcheng Emperor, yet what he'd given was not what she'd wanted. The moment she'd set foot in Chudu, she realized her husband's doting affection was as fleeting as clouds in the sky. She had been left to vie with countless women in the imperial harem for a single moment of happiness. In Chudu, love was the most worthless thing of all. The Empress Dowager patted Hua Xiangyi's head. It's already been 37 years since I came to Chudu. It's passed in the blink of an eye. Now my baby niece is to wed. I've truly grown old. Here, I learned that men are powerful in this world because they can take the imperial exams and rise above their station. They can wield spears and ride horses into battle. Meanwhile, we women are kept in ladies' chambers and taught virtues and precepts. No matter how talented you are, how keen your intelligence or thirst for knowledge, there will come a time when you eventually must marry. The Empress Dowager's eyes were calm. My father taught me that in this world, he and the Emperor were the sky above my head. How ridiculous. Becoming Empress means the empire is shared equally between the Emperor and me. Who could be the sky above my head? No one. My brothers are useless. Not one good head on all their shoulders. For generations, the Hua clan relied on marrying daughters out to keep up the appearance of an affluent clan. Yet we aren't permitted to make a single complaint. What kind of kinship is that? And here we have art. Like, yeah, I do. The Empress Dowager is totally right here. And I can understand where she's coming from in general. With, like, she's fighting for power just like everyone else is. And she has to be underhanded because she's a woman. So even though, like, she's kind of a villain in the narrative, it's like, no, I get you. Well, if the world determines success purely by strength, then I, too, can emerge victorious. She stroked Hua Xiangyi's temples. Remember, it is not Qi Shiyu who chose you, but you who chose him. I may yet be defeated in days to come, but it certainly won't be now. My precious niece is not fleeing desperately to Qidong. You go there now to bide your time and ready yourself for action. Whatever happens in the future, you may sigh, but you mustn't wallow in resentment and self-pity. This is a game with the world at stake. Once you make a move on the board, there's no going back. Wolves surround us at every turn, but we shall fight them to the bitter end. The bamboo chimes in the hall swayed in the breeze. Hua Xiangyi squeezed the Empress Dowager's hand. I will not forget Auntie's teachings. The court officials' feast was held on Yuanchun, the first night of the year. Local officials flooded into the capital in a steady stream. All were aware Hai Liangyi was keeping close watch on them this year, and there were thus far fewer family feasts and informal banquets. Any sort of gathering could become evidence of clique forming. Li Jianheng had ascended the throne mere months ago. For many, the court officials' feast was their first opportunity to observe their new master. Everyone spoke and acted with caution, unsure which way the wind was blowing in Chudu. Only the rumor of Third Lady Hua's betrothal spread like wildfire, leaving Qi Juyin with nowhere to vent her displeasure. This matter also piqued the interest of Xiao Chuye, who had been looking into the 8 great clans in secret. When Xiao Jiming arrived in the capital, the brothers sat together in the manor for a leisurely chat. The Hua clan is obviously trying to rise from the ashes. No matter how much of a lecher old Commander Qi is, there's no way he'll agree to this marriage, Xiao Chuye mused, looking over the Li Bei armored cavalry's expenditure accounts for the year. Xiao Jiming sat at the desk, going through military papers. It's hard to say. Xiao Chuye raised his eyes. How would this benefit Qidong? You've been in Chudu this long and have taken command of the 8 great battalions. Xiao Jiming didn't look up from signing documents. Haven't you reviewed the 8 great battalions' accounts? The Court of Judicial Review showed them to me during their cleanup. All the surplus money and provisions from the 8 great battalions were supplied to the Imperial Army this year to make up our shortfall. Why do you ask? Xiao Jiming pondered the document in front of him. When Hua Siqian was still alive, the annual salary and provisions budget for the 8 great battalions was several times that of the Bianjun Commandery. That money Shi Guan couldn't account for. Where's it gone? Hua Siqian kept 2 account books. Couldn't the Empress Dowager have done the same? Money flows in and out, but the audit remains a constant. As long as Hua Siqian instated his own man as the auditing official reviewing the ledgers of the 8 great battalions, they'd have been able to write anything they wanted in the annual accounts. The properties under the Hua clan might be searched and their possessions confiscated, but who dares touch the Empress Dowager's private coffers? That money is Hua Xiangyi's dowry. Whether for official or personal reasons, Qi Shiyu ought to be tempted. Qi Juyin is the current Grand Marshal of Qidong's 5 commanderies, said Xiao Chuye, displeased. She will never agree to it. Finally, Xiao Jiming looked at Xiao Chuye. Even if she disagrees, she can't stop it. Xiao Chuye lay back and thought for a spell. We've been on good terms with the Qi clan for years now. If Qi Shiyu really marries the Third Lady, Qidong will no longer consider Li Bei a brother in arms. That's of little importance. Once the Biansha tribes attack, everyone will still have to fight side by side. And with Third Lady Hua on their side, the Qidong garrison troops won't lack for money. Then tell them to pay for Li Bei's horses in the future. A cold glint shone in Xiao Chuye's eyes. How long can the Empress Dowager's private coffer last them? Providing for 200,000 soldiers isn't like raising a dozen lapdogs. The military expenditure will shock her. A single person can't possibly sustain it. With the Qi clan backing her, the Empress Dowager has the means to break the stalemate in Chudu. Once power returns to her hands, she'll easily recoup the money. Xiao Chuye sat up. This union must not be. There are ways, of course. Xiao Chuye looked at him. The easiest is to kill Third Lady Hua. Xiao Jiming glanced up at him in surprise. You are also a thorn in others' flesh. The 8 great clans would be all too happy for you to give them an excuse. The rumors are everywhere. If we try to stop it after the new year, it'll be too late. Xiao Jiming pondered in silence. Finally, he said, if the Empress Dowager wants this union, she must make an appearance, and the court officials' feast is her only opportunity. Given what's at stake, Hai Liang Yi may not be willing to let it happen. When the time comes, there will be a war of words. Some of the last 3 generations of Hua daughters were married out to Qidong. If we delve deep enough in the records of the Ministry of Rites, Third Lady Hua may turn out to be Qi Shiyu's distant blood relative. Suddenly, Xiao Qiye set aside the ledger and laughed. Yes, I want Third Lady Hua to become a distant blood relative of Qi Shiyu. This marriage must not come to pass. Xiao Qiye got up and opened the door to summon Zhao Hui. It's the spring festival, Xiao Qiye said. You haven't gone to see your younger sister yet. Zhao Hui turned to Xiao Jiming, who smiled. He understood. I'll pay her a visit tomorrow morning. Han Chung, third son of lawful birth from the Han clan of the 8 great clans, and erstwhile assistant commander of the 8 great battalions, had only recently taken up his position as the new chief commander of the Embroidered Uniform Guard. He had happened to be off duty during the autumn hunt, so he did not follow Shi Guan, nor did he heed the Empress Dowager's commands. Rumor had it that he was still asleep when the Imperial Army knocked on his door. By sheer dumb luck, he had escaped the autumn wind that swept the Hua faction clean. Shen Zichuan, however, knew this man was Xue Xiuzhuo's plant. On the eve of the court officials' feast, the Embroidered Uniform Guard sorted out their patrol schedule. I literally almost said Embroidered Uniform Gourd, and now that's going to curse me, and I'm just going to call it that every time. Shen Zichuan had planned ahead to stay close to the throne, so it came as no surprise when he received the authority token. Han Chung personally delivered it to Shen Zichuan in the Embroidered Uniform Guard's office. The candles stand ready. They lack only the match. I'll be on duty at the banquet, too. No matter what, His Majesty mustn't come to harm. Of course. Shen Zichuan affixed his authority token to his waist and said with a smile, We're depending on you, Your Excellency. It does fit Spooky Month. I'm also thinking of a certain gourd. Or I guess there were 2 gourds. But yes, it does fit Spooky Month. Even if Han Chung was apprehensive, he couldn't show it. He simply repeated, If anything goes awry tonight, it's a death sentence for us both. But if we succeed, the Embroidered Uniform Guard can swipe some of our own back from the hands of the Imperial Army. Everyone will live well after that, and good days will be upon us. Please rest assured, Your Excellency, Shen Zichuan said, solemn. We brothers here are of one mind. Nothing will go wrong. Seeing how composed and confident he was, Han Chung breathed a sigh of relief. The snow fell fast and thick outside. It was still falling when dawn broke on the day of the feast. I'm worried about this banquet. I don't know what exactly I think could happen, but I don't like it. Before the court officials' feast began, the emperor performed the sacrificial ceremony to the gods and ancestors. The imperial army stood at the ready. They had been on full alert since early morning. Dressed neatly in his court attire, Xiao Qiye came face to face with Han Chung as he stepped through the palace gates. As they exchanged greetings and small talk, Xiao Qiye spotted Shen Zichuan behind him. The left guard stands before the throne, Xiao Qiye said to Han Chung. eyeing Shen Zichuan as if he were a stranger. Why has the position been assigned to an embroidered uniform guard below the rank of company commander? The embroidered uniform guard has been reorganized. Many positions are vacant, Han Chung said, following the line of Xiao Qiye's gaze. Everyone on duty today is a first-rate expert. They may appear junior in rank, but many of them are only being kept back to await the right time for promotion. Xiao Qiye was wary the instant he laid eyes on Shen Zichuan. But his authority over the embroidered uniform guard didn't extend to commanding a change in post. No matter how many pegs the embroidered uniform guard had been knocked down, they and the Eastern Depot served directly at the Emperor's pleasure. Unless Li Jianheng said something, anyone who gave summary orders would be overstepping their authority. As if sensing his thoughts, Shen Zichuan glanced over at him, eyes heavy with some meaning Xiao Qiye couldn't read. Ahead of them, the elephant training office had already herded the animals out. Li Jianheng was about to step out of the hall. Unable to linger, Xiao Qiye marched away. Blue, it does feel like this novel is 98% plot, 1% gay, and 1% rooftop gang. That sounds about right. I challenged Shen Zichuan to be transparent once in his life. Today was the first time Li Jianheng had held the ceremonial greatsword. It was so heavy he could barely lift it. He hadn't even stepped out the doors of the palace hall, yet he could already feel his neck aching from the weight of the crown atop his head. The coronation robe, with its sun and moon on either shoulder and stars heavy across his back, had finally smothered his usual carefree attitude and given him a trace of sober, imposing bearing. And there is a footnote for the sun and moon on either shoulder and stars heavy across his back. Part of the 12 symbols of sovereignty on the emperor's ceremonial robe. In addition to the sun, moon, and 3 stars, others include a dragon, a pheasant, a mountain, a pair of goblets, seaweed, an axe head, and a traditional Fu symbol. Palms sweating, Li Jianheng adjusted his hold on the greatsword before stepping over the threshold. The court elephants, draped with red velvet and gold saddles, flanked the path. Hundreds of officials in the courtyard kowtowed and chanted wishes of longevity. Li Jianheng stood atop the steps, taking in the panorama of thick clouds in the east, the sky and earth cloaked in a blanket of boundless snow. From where he looked down, high above them, he seemed to float among the clouds. The deafening chants of "Long live your majesty" reverberated in his ears. Li Jianheng's heartbeat quickened, and a surprised pleasure gradually crept over his face. His eyes moved from Hai Liangyi down to Xiao Jiming, to all the living creatures of the world kneeling before him, the one and only supreme ruler. So this is how it feels to be emperor. He couldn't help but grasp the greatsword tighter. Standing on the receiving end of this grand show of obeisance, he felt as if he really had obtained the strength and courage to contend with the heavens. It was entirely unlike the feeling of sitting in the imperial court. It was the same thrill he had felt as everyone dropped to their knees before him for the first time at the autumn hunt. Li Jianheng made his way slowly up the long staircase toward the ceremonial terrace, reveling in every step of this journey covered in glory. Of the tens of thousands at his feet, only Shen Zichuan slowly raised his head. He looked past Li Jianheng and saw not only the tall stairs, but also the dark, threatening sky lurking behind the dancing snow. I really don't like the sound of that. I really don't. As the feast began, the court of imperial entertainments brought out dish after dish, while the winery kept the cups filled to the brim. Li Jianhong was fond of sweets, so the imperial bakery had produced quite a number of silk-nested tiger's eye candies. Li Jianhong sat on the dragon throne. The Empress Dowager and Hua Xiangyi sat beside him, followed by Mu Ru, who had just been conferred the title of imperial concubine. Shen Zichuan and Han Cheng stood at the bottom of the steps, facing the imperial army. A eunuch from the imperial food service knelt behind Shen Zichuan's right shoulder. Every dish on Li Jianhong's table had to be tasted before he could eat. The emperor was in high spirits. The wine had gone to his head, and he repeatedly urged all in attendance to drink up. Looking down from the high dais, he said, "Ever since we ascended the throne, we've been fortunate to be assisted by wise and capable hands. With a clear mirror like Secretariat Elder High by our side, we daren't forget to self-reflect for even a day." He had a habit of shooting his mouth off as soon as he drank too much, and today was no exception. We are incredibly grateful to Secretariat Elder High, and wish to regard Secretariat Elder High as the second father of the court. Such an honor has never been accorded to other Secretariat Elders in the past, but today we shall... Second father? How could he say such a thing? The color drained from Hai Liangyi's face. Before Li Jianhong finished, he had already risen to his feet in astonishment, about to kneel in protest. Li Jianhong let out a drunken belch, waving his hand unsteadily. "There's no need for that, Secretariat Elder. It's no more than what we should do." "I think it is improper." The Empress Dowager peered down at Hai Liangyi and paused for a moment, taking in Hai Liangyi's shock. Turning to Li Jianhong, she murmured, "Secretariat Elder Hai is a leader revered by scholars across the land. His character is solemn and dignified. Since entering the court to serve as an official, he has conducted himself with virtue, always candid and resolute in his speech. Bestowing an address of second father on this kind of trusted aide may demonstrate your Majesty's favor, but it would negate the Secretariat Elder's impartiality in his critiques." Encouraged by her mild demeanor, Li Jianhong laughed. The legendary King Xiang valued loyalty and honored his advisor Fan Zeng as his second father. And there's a footnote. Xiang Yu was a powerful warlord instrumental to dismantling the Qin dynasty. He was eventually defeated by Liu Bang, whom he attempted to assassinate at the famous Hongmen banquet. Fan Zeng was Xiang Yu's closest advisor. I don't like that the footnote is bringing up Hongmen banquets again, and we're having a banquet right now. Henry, you were gone for 2 minutes, and Li Jianhong is already drunk. Right. Today, we likewise wish to express our gratitude for the Secretariat Elder's wise counsel, and address him as second father. It's meant to bring us closer, and the title itself would be an ever-present reminder of our own self-reflection. Come, Secretariat Elder, what say you? Head already sunk low in a kowtow, Hai Liangyi resolutely called out, "Absolutely not." Oh, there was a footnote for Hongmen Banquet. I think that's how we know what it means. But it just didn't go into detail about this part of the story where they brought up King Xiang. But yeah, since then, every time they bring up a banquet, I'm like, what's gonna happen at the... Oh, there wasn't volume 1. Yeah, I guess I remember that because it stood out to me because I was like, that feels like foreshadowing. Li Jianheng felt as if he had been doused with cold water. Such a sternly uttered refusal drowned his warm enthusiasm, turning it instantly to displeasure. His expression underwent several changes before he eventually bent his mouth in a smile. It's only meant to signify how close we feel to the Secretariat Elder. What does it matter? Your Majesty is the highest sovereign of the land, pulls apart from King Xiang, a warlord of the past presiding over a narrow corner, Hai Liangyi said. This old subject was born in the mountain ridges of Hezhou. I am but an uncouth, lowly servant of the throne. How could I share the address of father with the divine and sagely Guangcheng Emperor? Li Jianheng's original intent was to curry favor with Hai Liangyi, and thus all of the scholars in the land. He wished to demonstrate that he was not an idiot who disrespected the pursuit of knowledge. But clearly, he had been limited in his readings. How could he have known a mere address would elicit such a vehement objection? All at once he was astride a tiger, with no way to safely dismount. The sheer awkwardness sobered him up several degrees. Awash in embarrassment, Li Jianheng attempted to gloss over the whole thing. If the Secretariat Elder is unwilling, then forget it. It is this old subject's opinion that those at the bottom will imitate the propensities of those at the top, Hai Liangyi continued. If His Majesty establishes this precedent tonight, others will follow suit in the future. When that happens, cliques and factions will form, impede the court, and jeopardize the state. It has been merely a month since the dust from the Hua faction case has settled. Past experience must serve as a guide for the future, not be forgotten after a moment's peace. Truly, Your Majesty should have drunk more moderately tonight. Li Jianheng clenched the wine cup and surveyed the crowd below. It was only when he saw the officials hanging their heads and not daring to look directly at him that his fury eased. He couldn't vent his temper on Hai Liangyi, but neither did he want to acknowledge his fault. He shifted restlessly on the dragon throne. After tasting the sweetness of submission from all under the sun, how could he willingly accept such censure? He was the emperor. In the end, Li Jianheng swallowed the last mouthful of wine in his cup and said with reddened eyes, "Forget it. Help Secretariat Elder Hai back to his seat." Hai Liangyi was well aware that this was not the right moment to admonish him, but it was hard to change his frank and outspoken nature. This aged subject still has something to say. Li Jianheng pressed his lips into a tight line and said nothing. Silence reigned in the banquet hall. Hai Liangyi knelt where he was, awaiting the emperor's response. They were frozen in a deadlock. No one touched their chopsticks. Even the reed pipes had stopped playing. Suddenly, a sharp clack echoed through the hall. Xiao Chuye had laid down his chopsticks on the table before him. Now he barked out a boisterous laugh. It delights me to no end to see such a close relationship between Your Majesty and the Secretariat Elder. A prime example of a sagely ruler and virtuous subject, their interplay as harmonious as that referenced in ancient writings. To be graced with such a wise ruler and upstanding official in our great Zhou is an indication that a new age of prosperity is upon us. His Majesty's generous acceptance of open speech and criticism is a blessing to all his officials. Xue Xiaozhuo raised his cup. On this New Year's night, why not raise a toast to this estimable scene? The officials lifted their cups and chorused their well wishes. Li Jianheng was mollified somewhat by the sounds of the toast. When he saw that Hai Liangyi was still on his knees, he heaved a sigh. Secretariat Elder, please rise. The crisis had been smoothly averted. Eyes on Xiao Chiye, the Empress Dowager was quiet a moment before raising her voice in the hall. That's right. Our Supreme Commander is here. It's said that a man's ultimate destiny is in starting a family and establishing one's career. Does Tse-an have any young lady in mind? Shen Zichun, too, glanced toward Xiao Chiye. Your Majesty, Xiao Chiye grinned without the slightest scruple. Look at me. Which of the esteemed ladies in Chudu would be willing to lower themselves to marry me? Besides, I do not aspire to start a family or establish a career. The Supreme Commander is too modest, said the Empress Dowager. Noble sons with your prospects are few and far between in the capital. And with that face, there are no shortage of beauties beckoning when you cross the bridge on the East Street. Heir Xiao, if you leave him be, it may be too late. Y'all, Henry, Shen Zichun in drag. Xiao Jiming was all politeness. Our father thinks his temperament is too volatile yet. He fears Ye will hold a nice girl back. The Empress Dowager turned to Li Jianhong with a smile. See how none of them are in a hurry. Why, when the Prince of Libei was his age, he was already a few years into his marriage. Li Jianhong had yet to recover from his previous setback, and was still feeling low. Not daring to leave the Empress Dowager hanging, he glanced at Xiao Chiye and said, Imperial Mother may not be aware, but Tse-an is reckless. Not just any noble lady from Chudu would be able to handle him. That's no way to look at things. You can't delay his marriage without good reason, the Empress Dowager chided. It doesn't have to be a noble lady from Chudu. The Hulian Marquis's daughter, Commandery Princess Zhao Yue, is around Tse-an's age. They'd make an excellent match. God, another character we don't know yet. The Hulian Marquis was the Marquis of Chuancheng and a member of the Fei clan, one of the 8 great clans. This seemingly casual suggestion from the Empress Dowager was indeed well matched with Xiao Chiye in status. Fei Kun, the Hulian Marquis, promptly lifted his cup in a toast and glanced in Xiao Jiming's direction. Xiao Chiye had expected the Empress Dowager to discuss Hua Xiangyi's marriage at the banquet, not his own. Outright rejection was not an option, but neither did he plan to go along with this haphazard arrangement. Princess Zhao Yue. Caught off guard, Li Jianhong stuttered as he looked at Xiao Chiye in a daze. An idea struck him. The nation is still in mourning. We're afraid it's not appropriate to confer a marriage at this time. It's one thing to confer a marriage, and another to complete it. There are no auspicious days coming up anyway. We could establish the engagement first, and wait for summertime to seek an auspicious day for the wedding. The Empress Dowager added affectionately, Zhao Yue and Xiangyi are bosom friends from childhood. It would be a blessing for them to be married at the same time. In saying nothing about whom Hua Xiangyi was marrying, and pushing Princess Zhao Yue to Xiao Chiye, the Empress Dowager sent a clear message. Xiao Chiye's marriage was a state affair, while Hua Xiangyi's was a private matter. Qi Zhuyin's expression was solemn, but she remained surprisingly quiet. As soon as Lu Guangbai saw this, he knew it didn't bode well. Qi Shiyu must have already given his approval for the betrothal, and instructed Qi Zhuyin to say nothing. But this matter of marrying Princess Zhao Yue was completely out of the question. If this engagement was settled, the Empress Dowager could use the occasion of her marriage to elevate Zhao Yue's status from a commandery to a true imperial princess, a status equal to the emperor's sister or daughter. An imperial princess's husband had no power in the Zhou Empire, only a title in name. Xiao Qiye would be stripped of the military power he had only just grasped. The wine in Xiao Qiye's throat burned like fire. He had risen to his feet when the Empress Dowager spoke again. Heir Xiao married the daughter of the Earl of Biansha from the Bianjun Commandery. Your son must be around 4 or 5 years old now. Is that right? He is 4 years old, Xiao Jiming replied. The son of the heir is already 4 years old, yet his uncle, General Liu, remains unwed. The Empress Dowager looked toward Lu Guangbai and added, Bianjun is a desert land. Standing guard there must take a great toll on the general. Surely seeing you properly wed would put the Earl of Biansha's mind at ease. General Liu is similar in age to heir Xiao. Is it also not the general's aspiration to start a family? Lu Guangbai was momentarily lost for words. Your Majesty. Zhao Yue is a girl with a lively and playful disposition, the Empress Dowager continued. It's true that Su'an is quite reckless. The general seems much more reliable. But Su'an, what do you think? If Xiao Qiye wouldn't marry Princess Zhao Yue, Lu Guangbai would have to. This trap laid over the banquet was designed to pin him down. Xiao Qiye had sent Zhao Hui to bribe someone from the Ministry of Rites days ago. He'd only been waiting for Her Majesty to open her mouth tonight, so he could testify to the fact that Hua Xiangyi was a distant blood relative of Qi Shiyu. With the laws of propriety and a generational gap blocking the way, the union would have fallen apart. But the Empress Dowager hadn't given him any chance to counter. Who would have guessed it would be his future at stake this evening? As this dilemma pressed down on him, Xiao Qiye's gaze met Shen Zichuan's for the briefest flicker through the crowd. Just long enough for him to catch the look in Shen Zichuan's eyes. That look being? A eunuch from the Imperial Food Service was delivering new dishes on behalf of the bakery, meekly dividing out the portion to be tasted for poison. He picked up the chopsticks and looked at Li Jianheng, an arm's length away from him. Xiao Qiye took a step forward. Your Majesty. Li Jianheng was frowning, listening to this confrontation play out. Suddenly, he sensed the stillness of the eunuch beside him and glanced over. What are you standing? In a blink, the eunuch clenched the gilded chopsticks in his fist and jabbed them toward Li Jianheng's neck. Oh my god, I thought that was the end of the chapter. Oh my god. I turned the page. I was like, oh no, please. Li Jianheng had no time to react. All he could do was watch as the sharp tip of those chopsticks came at him. His body stiffened and his eyes went wide. He couldn't move even a finger. In that fraction of a second, as the color drained from everyone's faces, Avalanche sprang from its sheath, its straight blade glinting coldly. Li Jianheng's throat tightened around a scream. Before the sound left his throat, hot blood spattered onto the front of his robe. Li Jianheng's shout burst from his lips. Guards! The eunuch's head toppled from his shoulders and fell into Li Jianheng's lap. Gripping the arms of his throne for support, Li Jianheng breathed the stench of blood as hands grabbed the headless body about to pitch forward onto him. Shen Zichuan tossed the corpse aside, then turned and commanded coldly, "Protect His Majesty." Ge Qingqing drew his saber. A row of snow-white glints cut the air as the embroidered uniform guard stepped between the throne and the imperial army, a solid and impregnable fortress shielding Li Jianheng. Xiao Chuye could do nothing but look up the steps at Shen Zichuan over the heads of the guard. The precarious balance they had maintained until this moment finally shattered. Shen Zichuan looked down from above with a meaningful smile, the look in his eyes heavy enough to trample Xiao Chuye's chest. Yeah, did Shen Zichuan have something to do with this? And I'm like, I don't know why he would, like, set that up on purpose. But he's always, where everyone's playing 4D chess, and I'm not on that level, so, I don't know. That's the end of the chapter. It's 4:19, so I need to take a break. I'm gonna take a break for 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe to curry favor with the Emperor. Like, could it be that Shen Zichuan purposely set up the eunuch to attack the Emperor to then purposely stop him to gain favor? But then would that also make it look like someone else was trying to attack the Emperor? Yeah, well. Yeah, so I'm gonna take a break now and mull that over. I will be back shortly. back. Oh, what was the quote? Oh, yeah. Wait, what is happening? Can y'all see me? There we go. Which quote were you talking about, Henry? I saw y'all talking... Oh, yeah, the one that ends in but Li Bei. Yeah, that one is a personal favorite of mine. Yeah, absolutely. I saw a little bit of y'all in the chat talking about, like, what could be happening right now, and at this point, I had an idea, and I was like, yeah, I sort of get what could be happening, but I really don't. There's so many possibilities. There are so many things that, like, Shen Zichuan could be doing on purpose, and then somebody else too, and Xiao Qie could have planned something. I don't know, I'm just like, what is even happening? I do love that, like, I was like, listen, I saw the chapter title Banquet, and I was like, this is gonna be, like, the Hongmen Banquet thing, and then it, like, kind of was a little bit. And then there was, you know, all the marriage stuff, too. Like, just, so much is happening. Every time you can't get people together for a meal, too much will happen. So... we are on page 89 for chapter 47, which is called Power Struggle. Yeah, they did try to kill the Emperor, so it was exactly like that, just unsuccessful. Yep. Li Jianheng, horrified, kicked the head away with shaking legs. He wanted nothing more than to cast aside appearances and curl up like a child on the dragon throne. Blood roared in his ears as he watched the scarlet stains soak through his robe. For a long time he couldn't utter a word, as if a hand grasped his throat. Dropping to one knee, Shen Zichuan said solemnly, "Fear not, your majesty. The assassin has been slain. This humble subject was late to your rescue and should be severely punished." Li Jianheng's limbs were paralyzed. He struggled to hold on to the armrests. He looked away from the fallen corpse toward Shen Zichuan, half choking with sobs as he grasped feebly at his savior's sleeve. "No, not late at all. You, Lanzhou, you've done well. We almost..." "Summon the imperial physician." The Empress Dowager hurried over, ignoring the corpse entirely. She held Li Jianheng's hand in her own and called out softly to him, "Your Majesty, your Majesty." Still gripped by panic, Li Jianheng gulped through a dry throat and jerked his hand out from under the Empress Dowager's to grasp Shen Zichuan's sleeve more tightly. "Stay here," he pleaded. "Stay here with the embroidered uniform guard to protect me." "The embroidered uniform guard are the Emperor's own guards," Shen Zichuan said without blinking. "For your Majesty, the embroidered uniform guard will willingly brave fire and flood." Ignoring the corpse entirely is really funny to me, too. There was a little tidbit in last volume where it was like, oh, the Empress Dowager is a staunch Buddhist, so she's like a pacifist or something like that. And there's just something funny about saying that about her and how she actually is and the way she's like unfazed by a body. "Allow this humble subject to escort your Majesty back to Mingli Hall." Everyone in the banquet hall was badly shaken. Xue Xiuzhuo stepped forward and barked, "Arrest and detain everyone from the food service, court of entertainments, bakery, and winery. To think there was an assassin hiding among the Son of Heaven's personal attendants. All those involved in arranging the inner palace eunuchs and guard detail will be held accountable." "Who is in charge of patrols tonight?" the Empress Dowager asked. The banquet hall fell silent. Xiao Chuye bowed. Your Majesty, it was this subject. The Empress Dowager did not pursue the matter further. Instead, she looked at Li Jianheng. The other officials all stared at him too. For a eunuch to join the Imperial Food Service, he had to have a clean family background and personal history. His actions and demerits since the first day he'd entered the palace, where he'd worked in the 24 yemen, and even which inner palace eunuchs he'd been friendly with, all must be investigated. On top of that, everyone he came in contact with had to be checked and noted in the official record. Xiao Chuye was responsible for overseeing the security. He ought to have vetted everyone here before the court officials' feast. The assassin had walked in through his layers of defenses. There was no way he could escape responsibility. Pale and drenched in cold sweat, Li Jianheng said, "Take the eunuchs of the various offices into custody first. Before he could finish, he fainted dead away. Like, Shen Zichuan and Xiao Chuye are still in a... it's the chapter title. They're still in a power struggle at the moment, so I wouldn't put it past Shen Zichuan to try to set him up by doing that? Maybe? It was a sleepless night. Li Jianheng lay insensible in the inner chamber, imperial physicians hovering at his bedside, while the Empress Dowager once more listened to a diagnosis behind the hanging curtain. Hai Liangyi waited just outside the curtain with her permission. Han Chung led the embroidered uniform guard to stand guard under the eaves, sabers in hand, while the court officials knelt outside. The first night of the year was bitterly cold. Many elderly officials were already shivering, propped up only by sheer force of will. An eerie silence filled the palace, adding another layer of cold to the night's chill. Xiao Chuye was not among those shivering officials. He was needed by the Ministry of Justice and the Chief Surveillance Bureau to carry out the arrests of the implicated palace eunuchs. The Imperial Army was likewise detained, and its assistant commander, responsible for screening those on duty tonight, had already had his authority token revoked, and now sat in jail beside the eunuchs. Inside the hall, no brazier was lit. The only light came from the lanterns. Xiao Chuye sat to the right of Kong Qiu, the Minister of Justice. Ten Yu, the Chief Surveillance Bureau's left censor-in-chief, and Fu Linye, the right censor-in-chief, sat in the most prestigious position on Kong Qiu's left. Under normal circumstances, Xiao Chuye and the Minister of Justice would have conducted the trial together, with equal authority. Due to the conflict of interest this time, he had no choice but to accept this seating arrangement and hand supervisory power over to the two head officials from the Chief Surveillance Bureau. Wait. Seeing the word... Am I saying that word wrong? I don't know if that answers brazier. Brazier. Well, I think it's brazier, because I think I looked this one up. Because I almost... brazier? What would the first spelling even be? Brazier? I almost called it brazier one time, but, like, that's a bra. So I know that's not right. Where the heck was I? This year had truly been a time of troubles, each fresh wave of problems arising before those that came before had subsided. The three judicial offices had never presided over back-to-back cases like this before, especially major ones that concerned an emperor's life. Kong Cho finished his long cold tea in silence as they waited for the next prisoner to be summoned. From the moment they sat down, they wore solemn expressions. No one made any small talk. Everyone knew it was not the time to make light of things. Xiao Chiye turned his thumb ring in contemplation. This was a premeditated act, just as Xiao Fuzi's death had been. It had upended everything the moment it happened, but that instant was a careful facade, the work of countless strings pulled behind the scenes, concealing an even deeper motive. Oh, yeah, Henry, no worries. I understand. You were just like, what word is this? Yeah, yeah, the problem is English borrowing words, or English is a whole bunch of different languages in a trench coat, basically. So even native English speakers are like, I don't know what that is. The inner palace eunuchs from the Imperial Food Service were charged with tasting dishes for the Son of Heaven. Each one, top to bottom, had been thoroughly vetted, going back 3 generations. Turning such a person into an assassin would be terribly difficult, yet also very simple. Whoever incited them must be someone who came into contact with inner palace eunuchs, or a eunuch who was working for powers on the outside. No one else could coerce or entice a eunuch into murdering the emperor. Xiao Chiye suddenly recalled something. His fingers paused on his thumb ring, just as the summoned prisoner was brought up. The assistant commander of the Imperial Army. Kong Cho wasted no words. As the Imperial Army's assistant commander, you are responsible for evaluating the armed personnel of the Imperial Army who stood before the throne tonight, as well as the food-tasting eunuchs arranged by the food service. What do you know about this eunuch? The assistant commander was Meng Rui, a man from a military household whom Xiao Chiye had promoted in the 6th year of Xiande. He was a prudent man who had originally served as the office manager in the Imperial Army. He answered steadily, his gaze unwavering. The eunuch assassin went by the name Gui Sheng. He was 26 and came from the city of Chuncheng. His father was registered in a civilian household residing on Bai Shui Street and passed from illness in the 6th year of Xiande. Gui Sheng was his only child. He entered the palace during the Yongyi era and worked there for 12 years. He joined the food service in the 1st year of Xiande and started tasting dishes for the late emperor 3 years later. He had no unusual hobbies and associated with very few people. Kong Cho thought for a moment. Who arranged for him to taste the dishes tonight? A female attendant from the food service, Fu Ling. First, Kong Cho looked at the men from the Chief Surveillance Bureau, then at Xiao Chiye. He nodded. The weapon he used was the same gilded chopsticks reserved for Imperial use. A body search by the Imperial Army would have found nothing. How about this? Assistant Commander Meng, please wait here. Summon Fu Ling from the food service. Meng Rui stepped aside. Throughout, he never made eye contact with Xiao Chiye. Anyone who had expected Xiao Chiye to be nervous would have been disappointed. He knew full well this assassination could not strip him of military power. Perhaps he would be punished with a salary cut, but that was far from a disaster. At the crucial moment, he had been too far away. There was no way he could have beaten Shen Zichuan to it and saved the emperor, so he was not derelict in his duty. The seating was arranged according to the demands of etiquette, so no one could fault him for his distance either. And there was one thing more. The speed at which Shen Zichuan had drawn his blade was much too fast. His saber had returned to its sheath before the assassin's head rolled. It was entirely beyond the speed he had exhibited that rainy night on the hunting grounds. Even if Xiao Chuye had been standing right beside him, he might not have beat him to the draw. Thus, the trial itself didn't worry him. What worried Xiao Chuye was what awaited after. His mind was already working to keep this fire from spreading to him. He thought again of that look in Shen Zichuan's eyes. The embroidered uniform guard's usual practice was to have a period of promotion once every 8 years. Members were assigned to one of the 12 offices according to the classification of their household register when they entered the guard, then promoted according to performance. Exceptions were rare. Shen Zichuan's family background was unusual to say the least. Although he was officially absolved of guilt, he didn't technically qualify for military status. If he wanted to command the embroidered uniform guard, he had to find another avenue to promotion. Xiao Chuye had been knocking the embroidered uniform guard down for the past few months to consolidate the Imperial Army's monopoly over military power, but equally to guard against Shen Zichuan's advancement through the ranks. The political landscape in Chudu was chaotic, yet the divisions between factions were clear as night and day. Everyone was familiar with one another, and whether they collaborated or fought, it was all out of self-interest. Shen Zichuan was the sole unknown. Xiao Chuye had tried every possible method to sound him out, yet he still couldn't pin down Shen Zichuan's true goal. Same here. Until he could work out Shen Zichuan's motives, any cooperation between them would be without trust. He had hoped Shen Zichuan would stay quietly at the bottom of the ladder. This assassination was his answer. Impossible. Shen Zichuan was his own blade. He would carve his own bloody path. He was not content to remain at the beck and call of others. He wanted to tear others apart, not obey. What could one night of pleasure change? That was merely a howl of resentment, vented in the pitch-dark night. An animal panting, born of entangled desire. The rough union of their bodies had felt like the shared suffering of wounded creatures, but sentiment was not enough to turn either of them from their path. Xiao Chuye would never give up the power he held. This was the blade on which his own survival depended. If he could not return to Li Bei, he must grasp this blade and never let go. Likewise, Shen Zichuan would never allow himself to kneel while others decided his fate. He wanted to rise through the ranks. He had to. His fingers curled into a fist. Shen Zichuan was at the heart of this plot. Who were his accomplices? Yeah, I know something that's going in the quotes. Leaving Li Jianheng under his physician's care, Shen Zichuan hung up his token to get a little rest. As he wiped his hands in the duty office, he heard the creak of the door behind him. I thought we agreed Han Cheng should be the one who saved the Emperor tonight. Xue Xiaozhuo rolled up his sleeves and slipped his hands into the cold water basin in the room. He smiled. We brothers have been played for fools by Lord Shen. The situation was critical. Shen Zichuan didn't look behind him. If Han Cheng was capable, then of course he should have done the saving. But he was slow. What could I do? This incident won't take Xiao R down. At most, he'll be impeached for negligence and supervision. You, however, have shown your claws in front of him. Even if you move up the ladder now, he's bound to make things hard for you in the future. We're passengers in the same boat, Your Excellency. If he gives me a hard time, said Shen Zichuan, glancing back with a smile, do you think you'll have an easy one? I've heard there's a breed of mad dog ruthless enough to attack its brothers. Xue Xiaozhuo looked at Shen Zichuan. It's being in the same boat as someone who will use one of his own without a second thought that keeps me from resting easy. What are you saying? Shen Zichuan asked. My brothers are precisely the ones who benefited from our actions tonight. As for me, am I not the painted target pushed before Xiao R? From now on, I'm the thorn in Xiao R's side. He ought to hate me to death. The friendship between His Majesty and Xiao R runs deep. His rescue of His Majesty at the Nanlin hunting grounds is impossible to forget. You stood out tonight, but you can hardly replace Xiao R. The first step is the hardest, Shen Zichuan smiled. If His Majesty was truly so grateful to Xiao R for saving his life, he wouldn't keep him trapped in Chudu. This thing we call gratitude is only worth so much. I just remembered that Shen Zichuan was talking to, I think, Ji Gong and Grand Mentor Qi about how they could break up the relationship between the Emperor and Xiao Chiye. So this is starting to make a lot of sense. Xue Xiuzhuo wiped his hands and laughed. Despite the slight departure in execution, our plan was still a success. Please look out for me in the future, Lord Judge. The Judge of the Embroidered Uniform Guard was a 5th-rank official post. Xue Xiuzhuo was pointing out how high Shen Zichuan could rise once the Emperor began conferring awards for this night. Shen Zichuan's expression didn't change. The eunuchs from the food service will have to stand trial. The Minister of Justice, Kong Qiu, is a principled man and impartial judge. Your people had better not buckle under his interrogation. Since we dared to do it, surely we don't fear an investigation. Xue Xiuzhuo rearranged his sleeves and offered courteously. I hope we can continue to work together in the new year. May we soon achieve our heart's desires. Meeting his eyes, Shen Zichuan said genially, I am indebted to your excellency for your care. Have no doubt. I will fulfill my long-cherished wish. What is your long-cherished wish, sir? I want to know. That is the end of the chapter. We are on, hold on, let me see. I really need to read, oh god. I really need to read one more chapter today, even though it's 4:51. I did the math, and wait, let me make sure. Yeah, I need to read another chapter. So, we're gonna go a little bit longer, past 5, but, if that's okay with y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and read chapter 48. If that's cool with y'all, okay. Oh, it's like 8 pages. Why did it look so long? Okay, that's not bad. Never mind. Yeah. That evening, Li Jianheng had a nightmare. He dreamed of that rainy night at the Nanlin hunting grounds. Branches whipped harshly against his face as he frantically covered his head. The horse he rode galloped wildly onward. Li Jianheng was afraid. He wanted to hang on to the reins, but Xiao Chiye suddenly turned, grabbed him by the collar, and tossed him off the horse. Tsa'an, save me! Down in the mud, Li Jianheng pleaded on his knees. Tsa'an, Tsa'an, we're brothers. Don't leave me here. Amid the flash of lightning and clap of thunder, Xiao Chiye's expression was as dark as the storm. Staring him down, he said coldly, knock him out. Get him out of here. Li Jianheng watched through snot and tears as Chen Yang approached. He reared back, waving his arms as he shrieked, I'm the Emperor. How can you treat me this way? His back bumped into something behind him. Whipping his head around, he saw the Xiande Emperor stooping to take his wrist. Imperial brother, save me. The Xiande Emperor tightened his grip, fingers digging into Li Jianheng's skin. Coughing blood, he spoke with an icy chill. He who saves you today can kill you tomorrow. Do you understand? Pain shot through Li Jianheng's arm, but no matter what he did, he couldn't free his wrist from that grip. The rain turned thicker, sticky. Li Jianheng reached out. His palm came away scarlet with blood. He looked up and saw a head tumbling down from the darkness, landing in the dirt with a thud. With a sudden burst of strength, Li Jianheng tore himself free. He scrambled up from the mud, gasping and trembling, and kicked the human head aside. "I am the Emperor," he shouted tearfully into the black shadows around him. We are the Son of Heaven. Who wants to kill me, huh?" "Your Majesty," a voice called softly. "Your Majesty." Li Jianheng opened his eyes. He stared blankly at the golden ceiling above him, murmuring, "Who wants to kill me? Who wants to kill me?" The Empress Dowager was dabbing his sweat with the handkerchief. She leaned in to say, "Jianheng, Imperial Mother is here." Jianheng. Sorrow washed over Li Jianheng. His mother had died early, and the Guangcheng Emperor had never once looked upon him seriously. He had indulged in play and pleasure all these years, but no one had ever addressed him so intimately. "Imperial Mother." Li Jianheng's voice was thick with sobs. "Mother." The Empress Dowager turned her head slightly, as though to wipe away tears. "You were unconscious all night. I was truly afraid. If anything hurts, you must tell me." Li Jianheng saw she was still wearing her formal robe from the banquet. She must have been at his side the entire night. As he levered himself up to sitting, he could see the gray hair at her temples and the redness at the rims of her eyes. She looked exhausted. Warmth bloomed in his chest. Li Jianheng wiped his eyes and clutched the Empress Dowager's arm. "I'm sorry to have worried, Mother. I'm fine now." Hai Liangyi had also been keeping watch all night, kneeling outside the curtain. When he heard Li Jianheng's voice, he sagged with relief. Moments later, the palace maids entered to help Li Jianheng wash and dress. The Empress Dowager took the bowl of medicine from them and tasted it herself before feeding it, spoon by spoon, to Li Jianheng. After finishing the bowl, his complexion, though still wan, had improved considerably. He slipped into his boots and walked out to where Hai Liangyi knelt. Touched, he stepped forward to help him up. "Secretariat Elder, we are well." Hai Liangyi almost couldn't stand after so long on his knees. Li Jianheng sent him to rest and dismissed the other officials kneeling outside as well. He kept only Kong Qiu, Chen Yu, and Fu Linye, who had investigated through the night. "What have you found?" Li Jianheng asked, impatient. "Hurry and tell us, Minister Kong." Kong Qiu kowtowed. "The Ministry of Justice has learned that the assassin was a eunuch named Gui Sheng. He was assigned to taste the dishes at the feast by Fu Ling, a female palace attendant of the food service." "Female palace attendant?" Li Jianheng asked in astonishment. "Why would this female palace attendant want to harm us?" "Her motive remains unknown," Kong Qiu replied. "You found nothing more after investigating all night?" Li Jianheng probed anxiously. Kong Qiu exchanged glances with the two men beside him. Finally, he said, "Your Majesty, Fu Ling knew she couldn't escape the reach of this investigation. She ingested poison and destroyed her voice while waiting to accept her punishment." "Why would she do such a thing?" Understanding suddenly dawned on Li Jianheng. She's afraid of letting something slip under interrogation, so she rendered herself mute. There must be someone behind her. "Your Majesty is wise," Kong Qiu replied. "My two colleagues from the Chief Surveillance Bureau and I had the same thought. When we dug into her background, we discovered she has an elderly mother who resides in a corner alley off Donglong Street. Her dwelling is small, but it's still not something a mere palace attendant could afford. After some digging, This humble subject discovered Fu Ling did not buy the house herself. Her mother is living there on credit from a broker on Donglong Street. Li Jianheng was intimately acquainted with Donglong Street, and Kong Chou's words immediately roused his suspicion. If only she and her widowed mother are left, she can't have had anything of value to put up as collateral for a house. Exactly, Kong Chou agreed. This subject found many points of suspicion, so I summoned the staff from the brokerage for questioning, and learned it was out of respect for the Imperial Army that the broker made this deal with her. Li Jianheng's heart stuttered. He was on pins and needles. Finally, he asked, "What does this have to do with the Imperial Army?" One Yuan Liu, a 6th-rank judicial administrator of the Imperial Army's judicial office, is the one who made contact with the broker, Kong Chou said. Although Yuan Liu and Fu Ling weren't formally betrothed, there are long-standing rumors of an affair between them. Li Jianheng suddenly stood. Does Supreme Commander Xiao know? Kong Chou knew the Emperor was on good terms with Xiao Qiye. He couldn't tell if Li Jianheng intended to defend or condemn the man, so he answered truthfully. The Supreme Commander claimed to be unaware of this matter. Li Jianheng remained rooted to the spot. His face cycled through a number of expressions until at last he declared, "The Imperial Army is large. It stands to reason that he wasn't aware. Keep this matter quiet for now. You may go. Summon Han Cheng and Shen Zichuan. We'd like to reward them." After trudging through a yard of hardened snow, Xiao Qiye kicked open the door to the prison. The guard inside had been warned of his arrival and hurriedly led Xiao Qiye inside. The young woman Fu Ling, only 23, was locked within. She had endured a grueling physical interrogation, and now sat motionless on the hay, her bun disheveled. Chen Yang took Xiao Qiye's cloak as he stepped into the cell. He cut an imposing figure at the best of times. Now, the very sight of him in the doorway made Fu Ling tremble. Xiao Qiye had a strikingly handsome face, and his complicated aura blended frivolity and ferocity. As a result, he could either present as a carefree young master or a chilling lord of the Asura. He switched masks freely, and once he did, even his smallest mannerisms would change to fit the role. Right now, he was a rich young master passing by. Xiao Qiye sized up the cell, bending slightly to peer through the narrow window. When he saw the only view it offered was the high walls of the prison, he immediately lost interest. He straightened to his full height, then turned and looked down at Fu Ling on the ground. Fu Ling shrank back against the wall. Even she could see this man's eyes were filled with an innate contempt. Female palace attendant of the food service, Xiao Qiye stated. Fu Ling didn't raise her eyes from his boots. Chen Yang brought a chair for Xiao Qiye. He sat, propping an elbow on one knee and gazing down at the top of Fu Ling's head. Yuan Liu has a wife and a concubine, yet he still risked his job to arrange a residence for you. What kind of extraordinary beauty could you be to coax him into abandoning his whole life? Raise your head. Let me see. Fu Ling huddled into herself and didn't respond. Xiao Qiye leaned back. He's old enough to be your father, and you're all right with that? A palace attendant is unlike a palace maid. When you'd served out your contract and it came time to leave, you could have married a proper man from a good background. Yuan Liu is an inconsequential 6th-rank official, and a military thug to boot. He has neither affluence nor influence. Are you blind or just infatuated to have chosen him? The cell was quiet. Let's set Yuan Liu aside. What could you possibly have used to convince Guisheng to commit a regicide? You have no money to bribe him with. Someone else must have been the instigator. Your voice is gone now. You're a scapegoat whose fate was decided long ago. Your master is a brilliant manipulator, to use you as much as he can and kick you aside after. Whether you die is no concern of mine, but since you dragged me, Xiao Tse, into this mess, do you think I'll let you die easily? Xiao Chuye chuckled. I don't think so, little miss. Chen Yang turned and nodded to the prison guard behind him. Shackles clanked as Yuan Liu, covered in filth, was dragged into view. Yuan Liu scrambled toward Fu Ling. You bitch, how could you smear me like this? She trembled and tried to crawl away, pressed tight to the wall. Yuan Liu grabbed her ankle. What am I to you? I treated you so well, and this is how you repay me? Fu Ling's tears fell without cease as she was dragged away from the wall. She kicked out at Yuan Liu and opened her mouth in a quiet, raspy scream. Yuan Liu held her fast. When your mother was ill, I carried her to the physician on my back. I denied you nothing. You deceived me, and now you're trying to kill my whole family. Despicable woman. The shackles clanged again as Chen Yang pulled the raving Yuan Liu back. Arms still outstretched, he snarled. You won't get away with this. Even when I'm dead, I'll haunt you. Xiao Chuye, indifferent to the domestic drama playing out before him, peeked again through the small window and realized he could see a square inch of sky outside. There was no snow today. Pale clouds piled up against the blue. Yuan Liu knelt, bawling inconsolably. He crawled through the filth toward Xiao Chuye and kowtowed. Supreme Commander, forgive me this once. I'm begging you. I was bewitched and blinded by lust. I'll do anything to repay this mercy. Xiao Chuye looked down at him. I'm not the one who holds your life in my hands. Spare me your begging, and go beg her instead. Kowtow to her, for the sake of the young and old in your family. Consider it a repayment of the debt you owe your wife and son for chasing your own pleasure behind their backs. Yuan Liu turned to Fu Ling, sobbing and kowtowing. Have mercy on me, please. I have nothing to do with this. I'm begging you. There are 8 people in my family. I don't want them all to die here. Fu Ling wept, but she didn't look at him. Tears streamed down Yuan Liu's dirty cheeks. Consumed by fear, he knocked his forehead against the ground until it bled. Fu Ling, one night as husband and wife is worth 100 days of affection. Even if we couldn't marry, the sentiments of these years remain. I'm begging you, please don't pin this on me. I'll be your son, your grandson in my next life. Have mercy. I gave that house to your elderly mother as a show of filial respect. How could you? He was sobbing so hard he almost choked. How could you use it to threaten my family's lives? Have you no heart? Fu Ling, looking pained, spoke hoarsely. She turned and kowtowed to Yuan Liu too. Her mouth opened and shut, shaping a silent apology. Yuan Liu shuffled forward on his knees and grasped Fu Ling by the arms. Blood streamed down his forehead as he cried in despair. I don't want your kowtows. I want you to explain. I don't want to die. Fu Ling, don't ruin me. Xiao Chuye, judging this had gone on long enough, chimed in. Plotting an assassination will not land you a sentence of decapitation. Plotting an assassination will not just land you a sentence of decapitation. If you want to die, it's your business. but it will be a pity for your elderly mother to endure the torment of interrogation at her age. Surely you know what kind of place the Imperial prison is. If she falls into the hands of the embroidered uniform guard, stripping her skin and pulling out her tendons are not out of the question. Fu Ling threw her head back and wept. Did your master not tell you? Xiao Qiye continued. I'll make sure this case drags on without closing. Every day's delay is another day of punishment for you, for him, and for your mother. We won't say our goodbyes until I'm satisfied. The girl sobbed hatefully at him. Xiao Qiye remained still and merely looked at her. Isn't it said that before kicking a dog, you should look at his owner? Now that you've taken a bite of Xiao Tse-an, we shall all suffer together. I'll whip you until your skin flays open, until you'd rather die than live. Let's see who's more stubborn. Chen Yang, bring her mother in. Chen Yang bowed his way out of the cell. Fu Ling screamed. The poison had damaged her voice. The sound was the cry of a beast on the brink of despair. She charged toward Xiao Qiye, dropping to the ground and wildly scrawling out words with her fingers. Xiao Qiye leaned over and watched for a while before saying, Give her paper and a brush. I want this in black and white. We have had some skin stripping already. I guess this is a moment to recognize that our protagonists are kind of terrible people. In the end, Chen Yang took Fu Ling away to sign her confession, leaving only Xiao Qiye and Yuan Liu in the cell. As Xiao Qiye was about to leave, Yuan Liu grabbed at the corner of his robe. Supreme Commander, now that it's over with, does that mean I can... Settling his cloak over his shoulders, Xiao Qiye turned. When did you take up the post of judicial administrator? Oh yeah, no, Blue, to be fair, you're right. Like, in the context of the society, they're doing what they would do. It's more just the way that, like, they're both using people to get at each other. And they sort of, in a way, you could say that they're doing it out of necessity, I guess, but it's just like, oh, you know, gray morality and all that. When did you take up the post of judicial administrator? The 3rd year after the Supreme Commander was appointed. Yuan Liu rushed to answer. I see. So you've been following me, Xiao Qiye said. Yuan Liu nodded in a panic. I'm the Supreme Commander's man. Xiao Qiye was tired and irritable after staying up all night. Hand on the hilt of his blade, he pushed away Yuan Liu's hand with the sheath. My men don't have enough clout to keep a tab with brokers on Donglong Street. And in the Imperial Army, all newly bought estates have to be reported, but you didn't. Apart from that residence, your own farmlands outside... Oh, apart from that residence, you own farmlands outside the city. You're faring pretty well for a 6th rank official. Are you really ignorant of who's feeding you? Tears and snot covered Yuan Liu's face as he wept. I was deceived. I shouldn't have coveted those things, Supreme Commander, but I never betrayed the Imperial Army. Xiao Qiye tilted his chin and stretched his neck, which was becoming sore. He didn't spare Yuan Liu another look. How old is your son? 4. 4 years old. I'll raise him for you, Xiao Qiye said expressionlessly. When this case ends, you can end yourself too. Yuan Liu collapsed limply to the ground as the cell door slammed shut. Xiao Qiye strode through the dark, damp strode through the dark, damp hallway of the prison, listening to the wails behind him as he took Fu Ling's confession from Chen Yang. He had just stepped out of the prison's main gate when he saw Gu Jin hurrying up. "Gongzi," reported Gu Jin. "Fu Ling's mother is dead." Chen Yang furrowed his brow. "It's fortunate Master came straight here instead of entering the palace this morning. If word had gotten out, Fu Ling would have no regrets, and we wouldn't have obtained this confession." "It's only a stack of paper." Xiao Chiye flipped through the statement under the sunlight. Fu Ling didn't even see the other person's face. "We can't snare anyone with this alone." "At least the Imperial Army is in the clear," Chen Yang said. "Master, will you present this to His Majesty?" Xiao Chiye glanced at him. Why must the Imperial Army be in the clear? Chen Yang and Gu Jin were dumbfounded. "If I'm to be a caged beast, I should act the part," Xiao Chiye sneered. "They're in such a hurry to sling mud, but it's still not enough. I'll not only take this mud right in the face, I'll roll in it. The filthier, the better. Let them vilify me with their newly united front, and think themselves accomplished schemers whose hand can cover all the eyes of the world. If they trample the supreme commander of the Imperial Army underfoot so easily, once His Majesty has a moment to think about it, he will be rightly suspicious and afraid. It's not even been half a year since the Hua clan fell. Whoever seeks to form a new faction now is seeking their death." Well, that's the end of the chapter. So, yeah, no, what did you say? Blue turnips. I kind of think the mind games are hot, not gonna lie, but that scene was hard to read because of the girls' reactions. I think, to me, it's like, well, the mind games are hot, like, most of the time when they involve people that I feel like deserve it, or when they just involve, like, each other. But this part was just especially like, oh, no, why are we doing this? And both of them have used so many people to bring about this situation. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just, but no, there, don't get me wrong. I'm more just saying, like, oh, our protagonists are, like, really not, like, they're not good guys, and that's cool. That's fine. I'm totally cool with that. We're having a good time. Yeah, Henry. No, I love when they get evil. Yeah, like, most of the time I do too. They're complicated, as is everyone, but it's just interesting, the, like, position they're in, and I guess it goes to show, like, the way that everything in the court is so corrupt that, like, to keep yourself safe and just to have, like, some semblance of, like, freedom and not get, I don't know, like, framed for something, like, you have to use other people or you're kind of screwed. So, like, it makes sense. Like, the more I think about it, I'm like, well, yeah, it's cool, but it's it's just a lot. But it's also very interesting because I wouldn't have guessed that in the second book, I guess for some reason I wouldn't have expected that in the second book that Chen Zichuan and Xiao Chiye would still be, like, making big moves against each other to, like, this degree. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that, but for some reason I was like, oh, they'll, you know, they piss each other off, but it's not going to be that intense anymore. But it totally is that intense. It's almost like it almost feels like more intense than before, in a way. But it's fun. Yes, it's definitely fun. And it's cool because it's keeping me on my toes. At any point, I really don't know where things going, and where things are going, and I love that. Um, Blue, I think it's because we're so used to the protagonists working together by the time they sleep together. Right. I, I should already, I should have known that wouldn't be the case. Um, and the most interesting thing to me is still like, okay, so what specifically does Shen Zichuan want? Because we're being hidden from so many things about Shen Zichuan, and it's like, at the start of the book, you're like, oh, Shen Zichuan is the first guy. He's like the protagonist. And it's just like, but at this point, he's such a mystery. We kind of know Xiao Qie like way better than we know him. And I also love that because I also like don't know what to do with that. Yeah, Henry. I love that they slept together before they trusted each other. It certainly yeah, it certainly makes for an interesting story. Um so I we're going to be back on Monday for chapter 49, which is called Cold Glint. I've said it a million times, but I love these chapter titles so much. Um yeah. So I've got to go, but I will see y'all on Monday. And we'll maybe find out a little more of what the heck is going on, and we'll also probably have a lot more questions. But yeah, thank you for joining today. Bye.